progressive democratic patriots with Watson Duke and the team. Rock and come in.
Yo, this is Trinidad presented for Watson Duke. Tasha B representing Tobago East and West. Digest PDP, feel the power, feel the power, feel the power of the Tobago fighter. Feel the power, feel the power, feel the power of the Tobago fighter. Boom, Watson Duke coming down. From door to door he coming strong. PDP we on the ground, and we not running from the sun. Fixing your roof and all your drains. Tobago go never be the same. PNM is a set again. We not voting PNM again. Digest. PDP party, them is the best. Digest. Watson Duke will relieve your stress. Boom. PNM lead the place in a mess. All and the young coming out of the nest. The 10th of August to do what is best. Time to put PNM to rest. When you on the road to success, Tobago tourism will be the best, yes. Will be the best, yes. What we call that? Watson Duke. Digest. PDP party, them is the best. Digest. PDP party, them is the best. Feel the power of the Tobago fighter. 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 Will him sleep? When Tasha out on the street, will him rest? Duke done beat them down in the rest. When Duke hit the road on the road to success, Tobago tourism will be the best, yes. Will be the best, yes. Watson Duke, PDP, Tasha B. Digest. Time for we to put PNM to rest. Digest. Tasha B, she is the best, yes. Feel the power. Yo, this is Trinidad presenting for PDP. Watson Duke, Tasha B. Beat them in the east, beat them in the west. Rah!
For far too long, Tobago been crying out. PNM completes the next term, and we still crying out. PDP forever and ever. I will never ever vote the oppressor, the slave master. What a disaster. Tobago, we are the head and not the tail. Let's demand the change. Set our speeches and promises again and again. To no avail. Election games, hey. East and West, please listen to me. Prepare either way, it's 2020. Watson Duke and Tasha Boris. Flush away PNM in the toilet. All they want is we vote and to full their pocket. But people before politics, that is we yardstick. The needs of the people is the priority. Too much roof done cover, fisherman boat fix. PDP forever and ever. I will never ever vote the oppressor, the slave master. What a displeasure. No. Tobago, we are the head and not the tail. Let's demand the change. Set our speeches and promises again and again. To no avail. Election games. Hey. Vote Watson in the east, vote Ashia in the west. Tobago, don't hesitate to drive the X. Drive it like you're fed up, drive it like you're vexed. I said to drive it like when you break up with your ex. Smoke Shamfa and Ayana from their Balizanes. And when the ballots are in and EBC done check. What a celebration in Roxborough complex. Watson take the east, Tasha B take the west. PDP forever and ever. I will never ever vote the oppressor, the slave master. What a disaster. Tobago, we are the head and not the tail. Let's demand the change. Set our speeches and promises again and again. To no avail. Election games. Hey. For far too long, Tobago been crying out. PNM completes the next term, and we still crying out. For far too long, Tobago been crying out. PNM completes the next term, and we still crying out. Still crying out. Still crying out. and we pro. PDP. Voting for PDP. This is a black hole. Voting for PDP. PDP. Black and pro. No weapon from against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon from against you. Jah protect our heroes. Look, haters falling on your left and haters on your right. Victory today. This is a black hole. PDP. We black and we pro. We voting for PDP. Vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black hole. PDP. We black and we pro. We voting for PDP. Vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. Black and proud the guy. Love with Tobago pride. One friend you can touch your Boris, don't ever give up this fight. With the few shit I galvanize, you bring tears to poor people's eyes. Vote out Shamfa, vote out Iron, vote out the pain and blight. We pro PDP, this is a black hole. We voting for PDP, vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No. Just set you higher than them. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right. Victory today. No weapon from against PDP. Just set you higher than the eagle. Haters scatter on your left, some scatter on your right. Victory today. This is a black when we touch the road. In with PDP t-shirt, black. Voting for Tashia Boris, voting for what's in the oak. Black like charcoals, black bamboo bully face smoke. Is this kaleidoscope? Tell them black is the code. We pro PDP. This is a black gold. We voting for PDP. Vote out PNM. Pharaoh and his men, you won't see them tomorrow. No, this is a black gold. Tomorrow, no. PDP, PDP, total black hole. PDP, PDP, Charlottesville to PDP, PDP, black is beauty. PDP, PDP, yes we black and PDP, PDP, total black hole. PDP, PDP, black is beauty. PDP, PDP, we got black. PDP, PDP, Charlottesville to PDP. We're voting for PDP. PDP, we're voting for PDP. Black and we pro. PDP, we're voting for PDP. This is a black hole. PDP, PDP, black and pro. No weapon from against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 falling at your left, 10,000 at your right.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, PDP family.
Our heroes. Look, haters falling on your left.
This is Dr. Faith B. Israel, and I am one of the deputy political leaders of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. I am currently the minority councillor in the Tobago House of Assembly, and we are here again this morning discussing the people's business, discussing the fact that for Tobago's development to go anywhere, we need to have a change in who is responsible, who is doing what, who is where, and we are asking the people of Tobago on August 10th to vote for the Progressive Democratic Patriots so that we can start to make that change. That is what we are asking for. That is what we are here to discuss. That is why we are continually been on this campaign. Remember, the Progressive Democratic Patriots came about because of one man, Mr. Watson Solomon Duke, who thought that it was time. He had seen what was happening in the land of Tobago and decided that it was time to do something different. It was time to move from the trade union aspect of helping people to being able to help a wider cross-section of people. And because of that, he contested the 2015 general elections as an independent candidate. If you didn't know that, he got quite a bit of votes then. He was really all a man, all on his own, deciding that he would, get a blowhorn and go with a truck and use street lights to light his campaign. And he decided after that we would contest the Tobago House of Assembly election. So he called a group of us, myself included, Assemblyman Farley Chavez Augustin, and a group of us to work with him to contest the 2017 elections. That we did, and we were successful because we were able to move the THA from a space where there was no opposition, from a space where there was no accountability, from a space where the PNM had 12-0 to a space where we now have 2 seats belonging to the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And I kind of count my seat too because I came dangerously close to winning that seat, having lost by 5 votes. So we are again continuing that leg. And after looking at what has happened in the THA, after looking at what is going on, we've decided to take it another step further. So we are currently contesting the Tobago East and the Tobago West seats under the banner of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, under the banner of the Bamboo Bolife. We are currently on August 10th. We will be sending 2 candidates. Watson Solomon Duke in the east, Tashia Grace Boris in the west. So we have 2. Watson Solomon Duke in the east, Tashia Grace Boris in the west. And we are asking all of Trinidad and Tobago, all of Tobago particularly, to go out on August 10th and to support the Progressive Democratic Patriots by voting for one of these 2 amazing people, by voting for one of these 2 candidates. Yesterday, if you were following us, we actually had a wonderful session yesterday evening. Several really important things happened yesterday. We had an amazing session where we moved through Studley Park, we moved to Goodwood, Goldsboro, and then to Pembroke, where we had an amazing meeting at Pembroke Pembroke Bridge yesterday evening. We had a phenomenal evening. And I want to thank every single one of you Spartans. I would like to thank every single one of you Spartans for coming out, for supporting those who came out, those who walked with us, because we actually, when we got out at about, where is that? Miss Mill Street is where we got out of the vehicles on yesterday. So we went from Miss Mill Street all the way along the main road, went down into Holland, then walked up James Street, and then we walked back down James Street, had a little blitz meeting by the bar by Cambridge Junction in Goodwood, and then from there we walked to Pembroke. We walked all the way going up what is known as Congo Hill, but I think the official title is Todd Street. And then we walked all the way in the back hill, top hill. Oh, I can't remember which one it is. All of them sound the same in Pembroke. And then came all the way down in the back by the Pembroke Bridge. So we had that little bit of exercising yesterday, and the Spartans, it's amazing when you see the Spartans moving like that. And we moved, and we ended yesterday evening by that Pembroke Glamorgan Bridge. So I want to thank each and every one of you who did that with us. Thank each and every one of you who would continue with us, because today we're going up to the north. Today we're going to the northeastern end of the island, where we are moving into Farley Chavez Augustine's area. And we move into Farley Chavez Augustine's area. We are going to Castara, Palativere, Bloody Bay, Lansome. We'll end our meeting. We'll have the actual meeting in Castara, but we'll be driving to those other areas this evening. We are leaving town by the Dwight York Stadium at 4 p.m. Leaving town, Dwight York Stadium at 4 p.m. And you could join us. You could join us to make that ride all the way to the northern end of this wonderful capital of paradise. It was amazing. It was phenomenal. Yesterday, before I forget, there were actually a couple blitz smaller meetings in the WIM area. There were a couple of smaller meetings in the WIM area yesterday, and those were also absolutely phenomenal. Because what we need is to get the message spread far and wide that the Progressive Democratic Patriots is here because we love this island and we are willing to do what it takes to rescue this island. So that was one important thing that happened yesterday. Another important thing that I was hoping would get a little bit more media coverage, so I am going to help push it this morning, is that the Progressive Democratic Patriots, I mean, people know that we are some of the younger ones. We are young and bold and vibrant and brave and you know, that is who we are. But I think people don't recognize the fact that we also understand that we are just continuing in this struggle, that we are just taking the baton from one group of people and passing it on to another and passing it on to another and continuing the fight that we have been fighting. So yesterday, it was amazing because we had a group of former assemblymen, 7, and I'll read the names for you. 7, according to this Guardian article. 7 prominent Tobagonians have now thrown their support behind the Progressive Democratic Patriots. Amen. 7 prominent Tobagonians have now thrown their support behind the PDP, Progressive Democratic Patriots. The politicians who were once opponents came together at a news conference in Scarborough yesterday. The group was comprised of former assemblymen, and oh my goodness, it touches my heart just reading these names. Dr. Jeff Davidson, George Stanley Beard, Max James, Carlisle Dick, Cecil Caruth, Regis Caruth, and the sole woman in the group, former parliamentarian Pamela Nicholson. Oh my goodness. Let me read that list again just in case you missed it. 7 prominent Tobagonians have now thrown their support behind the Progressive Democratic Patriots. See, we are not walking alone. We are walking with those who came before us. We are walking with those who call us practically every day to give us advice about how we are doing this. It's not just a bunch of young people who feel they know what they're doing and don't take advice from people. The group comprised of former Assemblyman Dr. Jeff Davidson, George Stanley Beard, Max James, Carlisle Dick, Cecil Caruth, Regis Caruth, and former parliamentarian Pamela Nicholson. Amen. And I want to publicly thank them. I want to publicly thank them for stepping out and saying to the people of Tobago that they understand that they have been doing their part, and they did their part. And they are now handing the baton over to another bunch of us. They are now handing the baton over to the Progressive Democratic Patriots because they understand that the struggle hasn't come to an end. They understand that the relay, their leg of the relay, has just come to an end, and they have handed the baton over to the Progressive Democratic Patriots because they know that each and every one of us who are a part of this amazing movement is here for the single reason, and that reason is because we absolutely love Tobago, and we know what they fought for. We understand what they fought for. We understand how far they have gotten, and we want to take the movement a little further. So again, I want to thank you so much to those 7. Thanks so much to those 7 who have publicly come forth and have said to the people of Tobago, we are standing with the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And by the way, we also have Miss Vanilla Allen-Toppin, who has been front and center. People have been seeing her. We have Dr. Vanos James, who again is a world-renowned economist, right here, born and grow in Tobago, from Charlottesville boy, and he's being used as an economist throughout the world. When the UN and those people want real data and they want real analysis, that is who they call. And these are the people who we are standing on the shoulders of. These are the people who we take wise counsel from. These are the people, when we speak, we are not just speaking on behalf of ourselves, and we are not just speaking on behalf of the farmer or the fisherman or the business person or whatever. It's because we have been saying, let's all collectively come together to build a better Tobago. It was an honor. It was a blessing for us to see this happen yesterday, and we want to say thank you to all of you. To all of you who have been a part of this movement, to all of you who've thrown your support. And I want to throw in one more name, because I am, the area that I contested last time was Belgarden Goodwood. And I want to let the world know, I want to let Tobago know that at our meeting in Pembroke last night, at our meeting in Pembroke Junction, and a part of the team who I have been working with continually since then has been the former area representative for that area, Mr. Steve Jack. And I want to thank him also. I want to publicly thank him for working with me. I want to publicly thank him for helping me. I want to publicly thank him for being a part of this process. Because again, we all know that we have a singular message, we have a singular mission, and we are simply continuing down the road, continuing the work of these freedom fighters who came before, and they are now just passing the baton on to us. We have contesting this election, this August 10th general election, we have Tashia Grace Boris, who is our lioness in the West. And we have Watson Solomon Duke, who is contesting for the Progressive Democratic Patriots in the East. Tobago, we are asking you to just give us a chance. That's all we want, Give us a chance. Give us a chance to prove what we've been saying is true, or give us a chance to see for yourself whether what we have been saying is true. Because you see, you have seen for yourself what those on the other side have been saying, what those on the other side have been promising, and you have seen for yourself what those on the other side have delivered or have not delivered. You have seen it for yourself. We have, if nothing else, 20 years of hard data in Tobago. 20 years of hard, solid data showing what they have offered, what they are doing, what they will continue to do in Tobago. It's up to us now, it's up to you now, to then give the Progressive Democratic Patriots an opportunity to show what we can offer, to show where we are going, to show the things that we know are true. Give us that opportunity. And it starts with electing Watson Solomon Duke in the East and Tashia Grace Boris in the West, so that we can continue this fight. Today, Today I want to spend the session today talking about something that had been a thorn in the side of Tobagonians for a little while, only because of how it was done. You see, one thing I know is that you may have good intentions, You may have good intentions, but you hear some of the old people saying all the time, it's not necessarily what you do, it is how you do it. It is not necessarily what you do, but it is how you do it. So today I am going to talk about the fact that we were supposed to get a Sanders brand, and I'm talking about the Hotel Sanders. We were supposed to get that brand of hotel coming to Tobago. And after a while, not because of what they were doing, but because of how they were doing it, that entire thing had to fall through. Now, I am sure you remember that even before, it seems like even before the last election, the 2015 general election, when Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley finally told us about Sanders, he basically insinuated that he had met Mr. Butch Stewart somewhere while he was in opposition, because he wasn't even prime minister at the time. This was before election. And he had a conversation with Mr. Butch Stewart about bringing Sanders to Tobago. Nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with you looking at the options, looking at what's happening, looking at what we need, and say, how can we do this, knowing that this is your plan when you get into office. There's nothing wrong with that. We have no issue with that. But you see, after, when he came on the stage and said to us that Sanders is coming to Tobago, and you know what was the most hurtful part about that is that I said yesterday, I spent the entire session yesterday speaking about the fact that we have a Tobago House of Assembly Act, and the act says that the Tobago House of Assembly is responsible for items under the 5th schedule. And one of the items under the 5th schedule that the Tobago House of Assembly is responsible for is tourism. It is tourism. So if we are going down a road where we have a tourism issue, a tourism project, a tourism plant, a tourism whatever happening in Tobago, it needs to be done with the blessing, it needs to be done working with, and if you ask me, it needs to be done through the Tobago House of Assembly. Through the Tobago House of Assembly. Because the Act clearly states that tourism is under the 5th schedule of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. So this would have been one of those projects where we say, okay, this is a real development project for Tobago because it is under the Tobago House of Assembly Act. Under tourism, we will put the money and send the money through the Tobago House of Assembly to get it done. It means that the Tobago House of Assembly should have been front and center with all of the negotiations, front and center with all of the discussions, front and center with everything relating to this project. What we recognize very quickly, though, is that it seemed like when the Prime Minister made the announcement, shortly after he became Prime Minister, it was very, very clear that he was doing this and his cabinet was doing this, and they had absolutely no regard for the Tobago House of Assembly. You know how we know that? Because when you ask the people in the Tobago House of Assembly for information about the project, they had no information. You would know when people have no information when they start to give you some kind of flowery answers that has no depth. And they were just trying to save a face. That is what they were doing, because they knew it was PNM in Tobago and PNM in Trinidad, and with PNM in Tobago and PNM in Trinidad, they promised us it would be smooth sailing. So they were trying to pretend to us that they were a part of the entire thing, when we knew they were not a part of the entire thing. When we knew for many instances, the first time they heard about a lot of this stuff was when the rest of us was hearing about it. So when we talk about it's not what you do, but how you do it, that was one of the biggest mistakes in the terms of how they did it. Not what you do, but how you do it. When they made the announcement, people were excited. Those of us who've been outside of Trinidad and Tobago, those of us who may have actually stayed at a Sanders hotel, knows that it's a wonderful, beautiful brand. We know this. Nobody was questioning how good the brand was. But the people of Tobago started asking, because the people of Tobago are not stupid, and we know that when things come in, we need to ask questions. We need to get more information. The people of Tobago started asking, okay, this is cool, this is great. Give us more information. As a matter of fact, I'm sure you would remember that I think one of the biggest petitions that we have actually seen coming out of Tobago was a petition that was started by Mr. Dedan Daniel, where he basically asked, okay, you all say you're bringing Sanders, just give us more information about Sanders. Give us more information about the deal. Give us more information about Wegoby. Give us more information. No one was saying they didn't want it. No one was saying it was a bad idea. No one was saying anything. All Tobagonians were saying is, cool, no scene, just give us more information. And they simply refused to give us more information. Now, you know that when you start to go down that road and when you start to behave as if you are my mommy and daddy and it's only what I say, you should just follow the instruction, that Tobagonians have a way with a start to say, let we ain't go down there. That is not how we deal with it. Remember, we have the Tobago House of Assembly Act, and yes, Tobagonians have a way that us pull out the Tobago House of Assembly Act out of their back pocket whenever they want to tell people, hold up, step back, don't pass this stage because you do not have the authority to do it. So that is what we were saying. Give us more information. And again, it goes back to not what you do, but how you do it. Because I think that everything would have actually gone very smoothly if they had just said at that time, okay, people, these are the proposed plans. What do you all think? But no, they started grandstanding. And they started pushing back. And they started basically saying that the people of Tobago does not have the right to ask questions. That is what they started saying. That is how they started behaving. And you would see them going into little rooms with very limited people and having consultations with only a select group of people, and the rest of us are outside still asking the questions, tell us more information. And then when they finally told us the more information, one of it being the location of where they wanted to put Sanders, we started thinking and we started saying, and the environmentalists and everybody started saying, okay, all you think that making sense to put it in basically no man's land? All you know that no man's land is one of our most important spaces in terms of an environmentally protected space. All you know that? All you think that no man's land is the best place to put it? Because people started thinking, as much as we want development, as much as we want things to happen the right way and we want it to happen quickly, we also like to protect the fact that Tobago is clean, green, safe, and serene. And we want to protect the fact that we have some special places. We have some special places that are our natural resources that we want to maintain. So the question wasn't even really, no, or you can't put it in no man's land. It was really, are we sure that that is where we want to go? Are we sure that that is the best option? Okay, show us where you've done the environmental studies that says even if we put it there, you're not going to damage the wetlands, you're not going to damage the mangrove, you're not going to damage the thing, and let's have the conversation. Let's have the conversation. Tobagonians from day one of this process have simply been asking for us to have the conversation. Because all our is family. always family. And we know that there are times we're going to have to make some difficult decisions. And we know that when we make the difficult decisions, sometimes some people may not be happy, but because we are family and we came together and we had a discussion, we decided, well, this is the route we will go, and everybody will move along, because that is how Tobagonians are. We are family. We just move together. Even if we have a little bit of disagreement, we just know to keep that to ourselves, keep that inside. But when we go outside, we're behaving as all our ways one. That is who we are. So Tobagonians were simply asking the question, you sure? Is that the best place? And then you have the Tobago, our boy Prime Minister again, would get on a platform in front of his PNM people and them and let them know that if Sanders good for all of these other countries, if Sanders good for Jamaica, and if Sanders good for wherever, and if Sanders good forever, it's good for Tobago, and we have to take it. We have to take it. He also went on to talk about the fact that he ain't care about no hairy crab, because by the way, the hairy crab is one of the protected species that we are finding in no man's land. And he actually got up on a platform and said he ain't care nothing about Tobago and Tobago hairy crab, because it's right the Sanders going, and it have nothing that in essence nobody could do about it, because he is big and bad Rottweiler, the Prime Minister, our Tobago boy Keith Christopher Rowley, and we can't do nothing about that. It's not what you do, but it is how you do it. It is not what you do, it is how you do it. Now, after he went on and on and on about that, we then recognize, because I'm sure many of you did not recognize, that there is actually an entity known as Ramsar. And this is where I want you, Tobago, I want you to pull up your phones again. I want you to write this down again. Pencil and paper. Pen and paper. So that even if you're listening now and you can't search for it now, you could come back to it after. Do you know that there is an organization known as Ramsar, which is in essence an entity that identifies the best wetlands in the world and designates wetlands as protected sites? Yes. Trinidad and Tobago, the convention, because it's an international thing, it goes to different countries and identifies within different countries what are the protected wetlands for those countries. Trinidad and Tobago, and go to if you just search Ramsar, R-A-M-S-A-R, Ramsar protected sites, you could just search that on Facebook, on Google. You would see where it comes to Trinidad and Tobago. It says the convention entered into force in Trinidad and Tobago on April 21st, 1993. So Trinidad and Tobago signed on to the convention that says we are going to identify some sites that we think needs to be classified as protected. And when they are classified as protected, it means we have to limit the kinds of things that can happen there, because we don't want to do anything to damage those protected sites. Continue with the website. It says Trinidad and Tobago currently has 3 sites designated as wetlands of international importance, also known as Ramsar sites. Let me read it again. Trinidad and Tobago currently has 3 sites designated as wetlands of international importance. Wetlands of international importance. And the way they have they not the abbreviation, but the shorter way of saying it is that they are Ramsar sites. They are Ramsar sites. So we have 3. We have 3 in Trinidad and Tobago. What are the 3? Nariva Swamp in Trinidad, the Caroni Swamp in Trinidad, and what is known as the Boca Reef Bon Accord Lagoon Complex. So basically that entire stretch, Boca Reef to Bon Accord area, Lagoon, all of that which includes the area where Sandals was supposed to be. Think about it. And because we have identified this space as a Ramsar site, it means that we need to be very, 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 very careful, and we need to be we need to take due diligence, even greater due diligence than what we would probably do for everywhere else, to ensure that that area is protected. Again, we are not talking about not doing anything at all. We are not talking about saying, no, we don't want it there at all. Actually, there were some environmentalists who were actually saying that. They don't want it there at all. But there are a couple other people who on the island were saying, okay, so we know this is a Ramsar site. We know it needs to be protected. So let us see your plan for how you plan to do what you want to do and to still protect our space. That is the discussion. Again, it was a discussion that Tobagonians wanted to have. From the beginning all the way to the end of this, Tobagonians were simply asking questions and were saying that we want to have discussions. Because the area that was highlighted, and by the way, we understand that that area was highlighted because, again, the Prime Minister went up in a helicopter with Butch Stewart. I don't even think a single Tobagonian was up there in the helicopter with them. And they were flying around, and Butch Stewart saw the part that he wanted, and he said, I want that piece down there. That is a discussion that should have happened with the Tobago House of Assembly. That is a discussion that should have happened with the people of Tobago. So we have the situation where we now have a location that was identified, one of our protected locations, and we do not have a say about anything. And when we are saying, let's just have a conversation about it, you're buffing with. You're behaving as if we don't have the right to even ask for a conversation about this issue. That, again, is not what you do, but it is how you do it. How you do it. Because if way back then we were all part of the conversation, Tobagonians would have had their minds, their questions, all of their questions and their concerns would have been raised. We would have gotten the answers. We would have said, okay, that sounds good. And we could have gone ahead with the project. Several people had actually recommended that instead of trying to put it there, specifically there, we could have identified many other beautiful places on the island and say, hey, well, down on the western end already so congested. Down on the western end already have so many issues. Down on the western end why don't we think about looking somewhere up on the east, looking somewhere north, where you already have the space. You're not to worry, already secluded. You know, that kind of thing. Let us have that conversation. Is there another option that might be better than in the no man's land area? Again, Tobagonians were asking for a conversation. But no, because they feel that we are stupid and that we do not know that we have a right to ask questions. So there was the environmental concern. There was the environmental concern that was a very critical concern. And let me also remind you, because this is how they does want to twist the story and want to lie and all kind of thing. Part of the process, part of the problem with the environmental concerns was that when they finally submitted the application to the Environmental Management Agency and they submitted pictures of what the entity would look like, we recognized that because we quickly went to EMA to get a copy because you are allowed to do that. We recognized that in the images that they presented to the EMA had some little things actually in the sea, whether it was restaurants or whatever in the lagoon area in the sea floating out there. Now it's a pretty picture, it looked good, but then people started thinking, if we put in those things out in the sea, how is that going to affect the water? How is that going to affect the seabed? How is that going to affect all of those things? Again, people were asking questions. Not unreasonable questions, because there may have actually been some kind of engineering thing that is out there that would allow them to put their little restaurants in the sea and have it work. It's possible. So we were just asking questions. All they had to do was come back with an answer saying, this is the plan. They again tried to buffet until we try to make it seem as if that picture that they had submitted to EMA was a fake picture and is somebody making mischief by circulating a picture that was not accurate. And it is the environmentalists again who had to remind them and say, hey, all you look, this is a document that we got from EMA, and we are just going on the document that we got from EMA because the EMA told us that that is what you gave them. That is all. So all you do come with that. Instead of just having the decent discussion, they decided to try to bully us again, continuing along the road of bullying. Because this is a government project, a central government project, where we are going to have a hotel built, and we were not sure about what was happening with the arrangement with the government and Sandals, because again, that was one of the questions asked. And because there was history in Tobago, history in Trinidad about arrangements between government and hotel owners and hotel brands, where it has not really worked the way it should, we had people in both Trinidad and Tobago again questioning the economics of it. Because remember, we were being told that this is a foreign investment, that we would benefit from this because we are bringing in this foreign investment into the whole deal, and we would benefit because of the foreign investment. Mr. Afro Raymond, who is in Trinidad, because he had actually been following the history with this, and the history with government and hotels, and the history with Hilton and Magdalena and Hyatt and all of those hotels in Trinidad that are partially state-owned and so forth, he started asking very specific questions, and he started asking for the MOU. I think the way he started originally was to just do a freedom of information request to the government saying, okay, you said you are doing this project with Sandals. Let us just see, because again, it's government, and government is state entity, and government can't just do what they want on their own and not come to the people. Let us just see the MOU. Let us just see the signing. Let us just see the arrangement. Even if it is not heavy, even if it is not in details, let us just see the arrangement you have, because we have a history of government doing these things and it has not worked in the past. They absolutely refused. They refused to provide that information when he asked nicely using the Freedom of Information Act. And because Mr. Afro Raymond was persistent, instead of doing what the rest of us do, which is we don't have the money to take the government to court, so we just dropped the issue, Afro Raymond actually took his own money and took the government to court. And it was maybe a day or two before they recognized that the court was going to declare that yes, the information must be released, that they came and they finally gave us copies of the MOU between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Sandals Resort International. Between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Sandals Resort International. We finally saw that. And I have a copy of that MOU. And again, I would have to publicly thank Mr. Afro Raymond for going beyond the call of his duty, because he could have just stopped. He could have just decided he ain't bothering about that. He ain't really care too much if let the government just do what they want. But he decided to continue spending his money to force the government to release this document. And when they release this document, that is when we recognize, oh my living God, what are these people doing? Let me read the beginning. So I'll do two things now. I would read the beginning so you see when it was done, and then I would come down to the end and read the signature so you see who did it. Tobago, this is where you need to pay very close attention. It says, this memorandum of understanding is made on the 10th day of October 2017, the 10th day of October 2017, between the government of Trinidad and Tobago, you all see? So you know even the THE, between the government of Trinidad and Tobago, hereinafter called the government, on the one part, and Sandals Resorts International 2000 Inc., a company incorporated under the laws of Panama, hereinafter called Sanders, which expression shall include its heirs, successors, and any nominees of Sanders which may take title to or operate the hotel in as thereafter described. So basically, this MOU is between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Sanders. The fancy word, not necessary right now. Basically says this agreement happened 10th of October 2017 between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Sanders International. And Tobago, it was our biggest surprise, and particularly Tobago West, our biggest surprise when we come down to the 9th page of the document, down quite down below, it says, in witness of which the duly authorized representatives of the parties have executed this memorandum of understanding as follows. And I'll go read it from the bottom and go up. Sanders Resort International 2000 Inc. by the above mentioned name, some Donna A. Delva, who has been duly authorized to sign on behalf of Sanders. Government of Trinidad and Tobago, by the above named, the Honorable Shamfa Kojo, duly authorized to sign on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Tobago West, Olia MP in the Parliament for Tobago West is the person, because at the time she was the Minister of Tourism, I guess, I understand. She was the person who signed this deal between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Sandals International. And I want you all to just think about that, because I am now going to go into details about what this document says the relationship between the government and Sandals was supposed to be. And why those of us who, when we started reading this document, we said, but what did so-and-so is this? Them people crazy? I thought they told us that this was going to be foreign investment. I thought they told us that we were going to benefit from this exponentially. Because one of the things we recognized is, at that time in particular, all over the world, in other Caribbean countries where Sandals has their plants, people were beginning to complain. Even governments were beginning to complain, saying that the arrangement that Sandals has with them was so unfair that the people on the ground were not benefiting the way the governments had originally thought the people would benefit. And when we read this document, we recognized that the same thing was going to happen in Tobago. And instead of sitting down and saying nothing about it, those of us who have a voice started speaking or continued speaking loudly, because the environmentalists were already speaking loudly about it going in no man's land. And we just started highlighting some of the issues. So let me read to you It's not my words. It's the words of the document. Let me read to you what were some of the agreements that this government of Trinidad and Tobago, via the signature of all your Tobago West MP, agreed to. Let me read some of them. So it says, it's 9 pages. I'm not going to read all of them. Part 3. Let me start by part 2. Now, let me start all the way up. We're going to go through it fast. All of it is important. The government intends to develop the land known as the developmental land, as more accurately defined in Section 4 of the Sandals and Beaches Tobago Preliminary Master Plan dated 2016, located in Tobago with a 520-room family resort and a 300-room couples resort. So that is what they plan to do, right? 520-room family resort and 300-room couples resort. 2. The parties intend to execute a technical service agreement to ensure that the development of the resorts meets their respective expectations. So that's fine. They want to create a very detailed document that ensures that both parties are happy with what is being done. Sure. 3. The government intends to enter into a long-term management agreement with Sandals, and on the terms and conditions to be incorporated into a formal management agreement. So basically, the government is going to enter into agreement with Sandals for Sandals to manage the hotel. For Sandals to manage the hotel. Now, remember they told us that this was going to be foreign investment. And by the way, foreign investment means that somebody foreign will invest their money into the country. My idea, that is my understanding of what foreign investment means, that the government or the people locally don't have to spend any money because it's foreign people spending their money and investing into the island. We go down later to part 8. I'm skipping through some of them. Part 8. The parties agree that the government will finance the construction of the resorts built to the specifications of Sandals, and the government may finance the construction of any reasonable means, including but not limited to private equity financing and other alternative financing for the construction. The parties agree that the government will finance the construction of the resort. That is not what foreign investment means. Foreign investment means that if it was really a foreign investment, it means that Sandals would have been investing into the building. That is what foreign investment means. Foreign investment does not mean that the government have to put out the money. The reason why we want foreign investment for certain projects is to have to prevent the government from having to put out the money. So you cannot tell us up front that this is a perfect example of good foreign investment into Tobago, and then when we finally see the document, that is the MOU signed with the signature of Miss Shamfa Kojo and the Sandals Resort, we are seeing in this document that it is the government that is to finance the construction of the building. That is not what foreign investment means. Somebody's asking me on WhatsApp, can I make the document public? Yes, I can make the document public. It's actually a public document. I actually got it online because they had scanned it and uploaded it online. I will have to put it in a Dropbox or something, or if you message me, I could send it to you. This is critical, and I read 8. If you are telling us that it is foreign investment, then the foreigners supposed to be doing the investment, not the government of Trinidad and Tobago. So you could see where we're already going down the wrong road. Well, we had been going down the wrong road long time, eh? We had been going down the wrong road long time. But this just proved, because it is in black and white, that the wrong road is really where they're going down. Because instead of Sanders investing into building the hotel, which is what they've done in other countries, eh? So when they tell you that it has Sanders there and Sanders in Antigua and Sanders in Barbados and blah, 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 what they are not telling you is that Sanders actually built those hotels in those countries. While we were going to be one of only maybe two, I can't remember which is the other country, where we, the government, was actually the one spending the money to build the plant. So that's one part. That is one part. And we go down. So you start off wrong already. You start off wrong already. And of course, we had to build it to their specifications. We had to build it to their specifications. And there were all of these about how they need to build it and to make sure that it is built to their specifications and all of that. All of that is there, but I want to go down a little bit more to another part of it. One of the things they also told us, and they kept telling us, is that the reason why Sanders is good for Tobago is because Tobago people will be employed. You will be employed, one, during the construction phase, and two, during the actual management phase, meaning when Sanders actually open, Tobagonians would get thing. They're going to get work, right? Now, when they said that, one of the things we said is, oh, wait, great, that's wonderful, but we need that to be written in a document somewhere. We need that to be written in a document somewhere that says, yes, when you are hiring people, whether it's to work in the construction part of it or to work in the hotel after, we want a certain percentage of the people to come from Tobago. And that needed to be written in any contract. That needed to be written in any contract with them. You know what is in the MOU? Let me read for you what is in the MOU. Let me make sure and find the right part of it. 10, we're going down. It's in essence saying that the government needs to 10 permit Sanders to, at its sole discretion, to be the final determinant regarding the suitability for employment of all candidate employees during the period prior to and after the commencement of trading, such that the standards of the brand can be attained and maintained. Permit Sanders to be the sole discretion, be the final determinant to determine who works there. You know what that means? All you recognize what that means? So that even if they say Tobagonians can work there, Sanders makes that decision. Full stop. Sanders makes that decision. They make the final decision. They have sole discretion on who works there. You all understand what I'm saying? So, in addition to not having a clause that says 5%, 10%, 20%, 40% of the workers must come from Tobago. And by the way, let me let you all know that one of the things that Mr. Duke was saying, because there was a big hoopla when Mr. Duke said they wanted to just be bellboys and whatnot. What Mr. Duke was insinuating, or what Mr. Duke was speaking about, was the fact that what we normally see in these kinds of arrangements is that they give the locals the lowest class of jobs in the facilities. And what we wanted to see in writing, what we wanted to see in black and white, was the fact that they would say that they would give Tobagonians whatever is 10%, 5%, 20%, 40%, whatever is the figure, has to come from Tobago, but it has to be at every level of the organization. So we are not just talking about having Tobagonians being bellboys or having Tobagonians working as cleaners. We needed to see in writing, in black and white, that they would have Tobagonians at every level of the organization. So we're talking about managers, we're talking about middle managers, we're talking about all of those, and their pay would be comparable to the others. That is what we want to see in black and white. That is what we want to see in black and white. So, 10 said, permit Sandals at its sole discretion to be the final determinant regarding the suitability of employees. And when you go down to 12, when you go down to 12, subject to clause something below, to grant work permits where suitably qualified Trinidadians and Tobagonians national in Tobago, so basically is unavailable, they need to grant, the government is agreeing to grant work permits so that they can bring in whoever they want to. So the clause on top say they are the ones who get the final say in who is employed, and the clause just below says that they are the ones that the government has to grant work permits to whoever they pick, if they are picking somebody who is not a Trinbagonian to work there. So you realize what's going on. We already setting ourselves up. We were already setting ourselves up to not get a set amount of Tobagonians working there, but we were then saying that we allowed Sandals to decide who works there. They get final determination on who works there, and if they decide tomorrow that they don't have a single Trinbagonian who meet their quote-unquote standards, that the government is obligated to give work permits to whoever they pick to come and work at the plant. All you hear what I'm talking about. This is what is in the document that your Tobago West MP signed to. Instead of insisting before putting her signature on it that there be a clause that says we have to have minimum of 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever it is, let's negotiate. As a matter of fact, start with 50% and let me come down. That's how negotiation works. Instead of saying you need to have a minimum amount of people from Tobago, and we're not saying Trinbagonians, because that's the other thing. You recognize what is here is Trinidad and Tobago. Because this is done in Tobago and we need Tobagonians to benefit most, we were going to limit it to Tobagonians and then expand it to Trinbagonians and then outside. That is what the Progressive Democratic Patriots was speaking about when we said back then that we did not, and Mr. Watson Duke said it, that we did not want our people to only be bellboys and bellgirls at Sandals. And those evil, wicked people on the other side took that and ran with it and was trying to give the impression that Mr. Duke was saying that if you work as a bellboy or a bellgirl, you are not good enough, when in fact that is not what he was saying. He was saying that for us, we deserve to work at every level. And because we deserve to work at every level, it needs to be written in the contract that they will employ us Tobagonians at every level with the same pay that they employ other people at that level, including upper, middle, and lower. That is what he was saying. That is what he was saying. And as a trade unionist, as one of the most successful trade unionists in all of Trinidad and Tobago, we could understand why that would be a stickler for him. Because he knows, he has seen where that is going. He has seen what that does for us. He has seen where in other places, this is what they do. Remember, the good thing about Tobago in 2017 is that we have internet. And because we have internet and Facebook and all of that, we were able to see the complaints of people from other countries. We were able to see the complaints of people from other countries. We were listening to them in Parliament get up and speak about the fact that this company was so advantageous and that they had not taken due diligence when they were signing the original contracts because they were under the impression that the country would have benefited so much. We have examples of countries that were saying Sanders was actually taking the tax. You know, like how we have VAT in Trinidad and Tobago. Sanders was actually taking the VAT, their equivalent of VAT. I think it was Antigua and Barbuda, if I'm not mistaken. Taking it from people and were not paying it to the government. They were complaining bitterly about that. They were complaining bitterly about that. And because we know that we have the benefit of internet and we could read and we could listen and we could know what's happening outside of Trinidad and Tobago, we were saying, okay, if they're in the fire and they're complaining about this, why we just go in and jump in the same fire? Why would we just go and jump in the same fire when we see our brothers and sisters up the islands complaining about how hot the fire is? Are we stupid? And that is why they did not want us to see this document, because this document had it written in black and white. Had it written in black and white about what they had planned to do. There's also a part of it that says, this is 15, that the government is supposed to generally grant all such licensing permits and permissions which may be necessary for the operation of the resort. So any kind of license they need, the government had to grant it. When we here have we little bar and little restaurant and little this and that, and had to go through and had to jump through all kind of holes to get our licensing, this document basically says that the government is required to grant whatever licensing is necessary for this entity to function. And there's also a part down below, I'm trying to find it exactly, where it speaks about the same thing as it relates to produce. No, here it is now. Yes, they said that they are to give preference to purchasing of domestically produced agricultural inputs where it is available in adequate quantities and qualities and at comparable prices external to Trinidad and Tobago. So yes, it did say that they are allowed to do that. But later down again, it basically says that Sanders would get the preference. And if Sanders decides that the quality and quantity and price of those goods is not comparable to where they can get it outside, then Sanders is allowed to go and get it outside. So it's the same for employment. Sanders gets to make the final decision about who gets employed, and when they decide that our local is not good enough, they can go ahead and bring from inside, and the government is required by law to allow them to bring in, giving them work permits. The same way when it comes to agricultural products, they say, yeah, we got buy it in Trinidad and Tobago locally, but if we recognize that it does not meet the standard, if we recognize, and they are the sole discretion on deciding what is the standard and what is the quantity and what is the price. They are the sole discretion on that. They decide. And after they decide, because they decide, they would then be allowed to import. And there's another part here, I'm trying to find it. There's actually another part here where they would then be allowed to import any of those things without having to pay the same way we just had to pay the heavy taxes. The same way we just had to pay the heavy import taxes. And these days you're hearing how customs want to dig out with eye. They would have been able to bring in all of those things without paying those taxes. That is what this document says. That is what this document says. And that is what Tobago, your Tobago West MP, instead of standing up and saying, I'm not signing no document until all you put in some specifics. Because that's the other thing, Remember, we are here speaking on behalf of Tobago. We are here speaking for Tobagonians. And when you say Trinidad and Tobago, that leaves it open for all of Trinidad and Tobago. So we had a situation that even if they were bringing local stuff from Trinidad and Tobago, all of it could have actually been coming from Trinidad because Tobagonians were not ready to, were not prepared to make to meet the needs. That is what was happening. That is what was going to happen. And again, I have to say thank you so much to Afro Raymond for spending his own money to force the government to release that document so that we see in black and white what was in the document. Because we would not have known. That is what we were asking for from the beginning. That is what we were asking for from the beginning. And that is exactly why, because they knew what was in the document. That is why they were refusing to give it, because they knew what was in the document, and they knew that it would have been as clear as day that the people of Tobago, even if not the people of Trinidad and Tobago, but the people of Tobago would not have been benefiting from this as much as they claimed that we would be benefiting. And by the way, if you have never been to an all-inclusive resort anywhere else in the world, I would let you know what that looks like. I would let you know what that looks like. Because the other thing they kept telling us is that even though the hotel is an all-inclusive hotel, all of the people around would be able to benefit. The taxi man would be able to benefit. The person selling craft on the street would be able to benefit. Everybody would benefit because it is all inclusive. Even though it is all inclusive, everybody would benefit. And I could tell you, I have been to all-inclusive resorts in Jamaica and other places. And this is the experience. This is the experience. They pick you up at the airport. They drive you directly. So the company, so in this case, Sanders would have had their own company, their own bus picking you up at the airport. Drive you to the facility. They would let you know that everything you need is at this facility. Everything you need has already been paid for, because remember, you've already paid your money. You've already paid your money. That was all inclusive means. You have already paid your money for everything that you need. They drive you to the facility. When you get to the facility, it is locked down. Meaning people who are on the outside can't come in, and people who are on the inside, they tell you, and I have actually had been at those facilities where they tell you, do not interact with the locals because so. I remember actually going to Jamaica, staying at an all-inclusive facility, and basically had to run away with one of the taxi drivers because the taxi drivers was telling us that what you are experiencing in here in this little cocoon is not the real Jamaica. Let me take you out to see what the real Jamaica is. And we basically had to run away with the taxi driver to go to see the real Jamaica, to interact with the real people. Because unless you are part of the entity, you are not allowed to interact with the people who are staying there. So when you believe that you are going to be right outside their little hotel with your craft and you are going to benefit from that, oh no, my dear, they would probably be calling police to have you removed from that space. And with a situation where the government is paying the money up front to build the plant, because that is what happened. That is what that document says. Even though they told us it would have been foreign investment, that document very clearly said that the government was going to be the one spending money to build the hotel. And then after it is built according to the specifications, that we would then hand it over for Sandals to manage. And you know what is on top of all of this? On top of all of this madness, one of the things we recognize, and again, we just recognize things when people start to talk publicly and, you know, they say, mouth open, Tory jump out. I remember very clearly there was an interview, one of the last interviews, where Mr. Butch Stewart and others, I think they had taken our journalists in a very nice ride to one of their Sanders. You know, they was trying to convince the journalists that this is the best thing since sliced bread. They took a whole set of our journalists to a hotel somewhere, I can't remember which other island they took them. And when the journalists started asking the questions and they started talking, we recognized that, hey, the government had actually owed Sanders for the plan, for the architectural drawings. The government of Trinidad and Tobago, so the architectural drawings that the government of Trinidad and Tobago were using to then build the structure, the government of Trinidad and Tobago had to actually pay Sanders for those drawings. And because it was Mr. Butstewart, I heard it myself. As a matter of fact, when I heard it, I made sure that when the interview was done, I went back to listen to that part again to make sure I didn't misunderstand the man. He is the one who said, and the government actually owes us now for those drawings. So we, government of Trinidad and Tobago, and by government of Trinidad and Tobago, I mean every single one of you citizens, every single one of us, every time we buy something and we pay VAT, we were the ones who are going to spend the money for the plant, spend the money for the construction, and in addition to spending the money, we also had to buy the architectural drawings for the place. And then after we do all of that, we then go into an arrangement with Sanders, and they just come in and manage. And then we share. And we don't even know what the sharing would have been, whatever are the profits from that. That would have been the plan. And you telling me we have done that several times before with other hotels. Remember when we had a Hilton in Tobago? Y'all remember that? Y'all remember when they had a Hilton in Tobago that the government spent the money for the plant and brought in Hilton, and after a year or two of not making enough money, Hilton decided, see, we ain't doing this. And they just pick up the Georgie bundle and got away. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember that? That is a perfect example of what could have actually happened here again because of the situation, because of the rule, because of how this thing was done. Because of how this was done. So, somebody just said, and I'm going to pull it up. It says, Dr. Faith, read section 6A6 for the public, please. Let me pull up and let me find what A6 says so that I could read that, because I think I had skipped through that. Oh, yes. Oh, Lord. Thank you, whoever. Thank you so much for reminding me about that part. A6 says, thank you. In the event that the government fails to complete the development of the resort, the government shall reimburse Sanders for all wasted costs and expenses upon request. All I get that? So whatever money Sanders had spent during this whole thing, getting up to there, if the government did not conclude the thing, the government would have had to reimburse Sanders for all the money that Sanders spent. So we now have to ask the question. Thank you so much for highlighting that, my dear. Thank you. We now have to ask ourselves, how much money has the government actually paid to Sanders for this whole fiasco? Because this is a perfect example, because remember, this MOU was signed in 2017, which means that from 2017 to now, this clause is a part of the agreement. So we already had to pay them for the plans, and they're now saying that we had to pay them for whatever cost they had incurred because the plan did not come to fruition. So we need to ask ourselves now, how much money has the government spent on this project that has since been halted? Let me take this call. Good morning, caller.
Yes,
you are on the air.
How are you going?
Good.
One thing, very well articulating what and taking the time and articulating what happened with the Sanders, that they're trying to blame the PDP for their failures. But there's one thing that we alluding to. I don't hear any public talking about, and is what Mr. Kamaluddin Mohammed's daughter would have said in Trinidad about Rowley and why she resigned from the PNM. I have not heard anybody articulating that. Yeah.
Okay, yes, well, we're waiting. Hello, good morning. You're on the air.
Hello, good morning, Dr. Faith.
Hi, good morning, good morning.
Thank you so much for articulating all these things. But I want to look at it at the time all this expenditure or proposed expenditure was taking place. They had to pay Sanders for all costs incurred, which means the cost for taking those journalists to whatever island they took them to, the cost of coming to Trinidad and Tobago, all these are costs incurred as a result of the Sanders project. And they were prepared to pay all these costs at a time they were telling us that the treasury was empty and the previous government had spent every penny and they had no money. So they either were lying to us about having no money or they were probably borrowing the money somewhere. And they have told us that. Okay?
Yes, important point, because again I thank the person who pointed out that A6 clause that talks about us reimbursing them, because honestly I thought that when they had all of these journalists in nice plane heading up and spending the weekend by Sanders, that was Sanders just part of the foreign investment, because remember they told us it was foreign investment. So it's only now we realizing that the government had to reimburse all of that. So somebody needs to ask. We need to ask. And by the way, this is another reason you all need to vote for Watson Solomon Duke and Tashia Grace Burris, because being MPs in the parliament after August 10th means that those are questions that they can bring to the parliament and they need to bring the answers. How much money have they actually spent? How much have they reimbursed? That is what we need to know. Hello, good morning. You are on the air. Thanks for calling.
Good morning, Dr. Faith.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
I want to thank you for the time that you took this morning to explain. Now, I had some information. I was up in us, but listen, it has clarified so much for me today, and I'm sure not just me, but the listening public about what really happened, with this Butch Sanders and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And it is obvious, it's clear that it was a selfish move on behalf of the PM and his team, because if they were really taking the country at heart and to ensure that the country gets what is deserved as Trinidad and Tobago, they would not have even reached to the point of signing a document of such a disrespectful I can't even find the adjective now, to adequately describe, that. Thank you. I just want to also say I am so elated when you mentioned the names of those people, Jeff Davidson, Stanley. These are guys who I worked with for years.
Yes,
I worked with, campaigned with, and my God, I was so excited. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. They are the best, and they will guide you. God bless you. God bless PDP. I'm only sorry I can't come home to vote. Oh God, it aches in my heart, but I'm there in spirit. I'm going to keep praying for you guys. Keep on doing the good work you're doing. You're valid. You're valuable to come on the air. Let us know what is happening. This will not go on deaf ears. Thank you again, guys.
And thank you so much, caller, for calling. Thank you so much. And this is what we need to do. This is why we are here. This is why I got into politics.
Exactly. Exactly.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling. And I know, everybody is hard, but because of COVID, the borders are still closed. But we are hoping that there are enough Tobagonians on the island who are listening to this message and who understand the importance of them coming out and voting on your behalf.
Exactly. Thank you. I for real, for real. God is wonderful. And, He is a miracle working God. It will happen. It's imminent. Victory is imminent. PDP all the way. Blessings.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so very much. So, again, It's amazing because, you know, they keep trying to say, and what's sad is, they keep trying to blame Watson Duke. Imagine that, Imagine that. But that tells you something about the power of the man. They were trying to blame Watson Duke for saying it's Watson that chased away Sanders. Imagine the foolishness of that statement. Watson being the minority leader of the Tobago House of Assembly, is saying to the people, these are the things you need to fight for. These are the things you need to fight for, and because you need to fight for these things, we are speaking on your behalf. And because Watson got up and said, okay, let us ensure that we have our workers at every level. Let us ensure that we have Tobagonians at every level. They are saying that Watson chased with Sanders. But imagine that. If Watson being a minority leader, having no power as minority leader, just to open a mouth and say, this is what we need and this is what we need for the people of Tobago, could chase away Sanders, then imagine Watson being the MP for Tobago East, what we can do. And I'm getting another note. Thank you, the person who is reading this document with me and sending me the guidelines. Thank you. The person said to read A82. So I'm reading it to be granted to the Sanders and or to the company and or Sanders, which shall be responsible for the management and running of the resort. You know what that means? You know, when we would thank you so much, whoever you are sending me these messages. You know, when they say, when God can come in to send somebody, thank you. Because what that means is that we were willing to give Sanders all kinds of exemptions, and you hear them in other countries talk about the fact that Sanders has not been paying taxes because that is part of the deal. So while our other hotels and bed and breakfast and whatever catching the nenen in Trinidad and Tobago to stay afloat, and they still have to pay all of the income tax and so forth, we were going to give Sanders all of those exemptions. And by the way, if you look at other countries where this was done, plenty of them were given 10 years, 20 years, 25 years exemptions, saying that they don't have to pay a of tax in 20 years. And that is why when there was the Mayor Motley came in and became the Prime Minister of Barbados, one of the things that they actually did, and they were very clear about it, was halt any interaction with Sanders, because they were saying they were finally reading the document, because remember, they were not in executive at the time when the document was signed between Barbados and Sanders. So Mia Motley and they were actually saying, by the way, she's one of my favorite world leaders. She was saying that when they finally read the document, they recognized that it was going to be so unfair to their people that they had to renegotiate. They had to renegotiate, and that is what they have been doing. So it was either renegotiate, let's change some of these terms, or no go, because the terms are simply unfair. Again, if you're now tuning in, I am talking about the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding that was signed between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Sanders Resort. And by the way, if you are now tuned in and listening, the person on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago who signed this MOU was our minister, our representative for Tobago West, Miss Shamfa Kajur. And that is why I have been saying for the longest while, when they are asking you to send them back there for 5 years, what are you sending them back to do? Imagine we send them back there for 5 years, what are going on to sign away with life? If that is what she was willing to put her signature to. I am sure I have to ask myself, because I know her. I know her personally, and I think she's a very intelligent person. So the questions still remain. Did she actually read the document before signing? Now, it's possible that she did not read the document before signing, and that says something in itself, because you shouldn't be signing them kind of thing if you didn't read it properly. But even if she did read it, there's no way you could tell me you read that document with those words and you comfortably put your signature to that. You telling me that you read those documents with that document with those words, and you comfortably put your signature to that, then that says something. Is that the person you want representing you in the Parliament Tobago? Or more importantly, even if she was not comfortable but she was forced by the Prime Minister, our Tobago boy, is that who you want being in charge in Trinidad and Tobago? Really? Hello, caller. You are on the air. Welcome.
Yes. Very good point. I was not going to make that point. There, doctor. And listen, anything that Rowley tell them to do, they go do. Anything. They don't have to, but they don't question nothing. It's just like how many people here who hold on to PNM all their life here. They don't think. They don't think at all. You know? But Dr. Faith, you know what I want you to do? You see the rest of meetings that we have, that same document you have there, I want you to open that up and let it go wide on the platform. Use areas of the document there to explain to the public and raise that awareness to the rest of the public, because most Tobagonians don't know at all about what the thing, and I think we should use the rest of our time using that, especially against the representative for Tobago West at this time, Shamfa Kojo, open up and show the incompetence that she was doing along with the Prime Minister. It's a very good area to let the public know about at this time.
Thank you so much for that suggestion. And yes, I think what we could do is actually even have that last page printed so that they know that it's not me that just says so. This is what it is, or probably put it up on the screen so that people are seeing that this is what we are actually talking about. I'm getting my guardian angel again is telling me to read clause 16 and 17, and this is why I like with Spartans, because we roll together. 16 says, grant similar concessions and privileges as those stated above with respect to any expansion or improvement of the resort within a period to be agreed between the parties. In respect of such expansion and improvement to commence on the commencement of commercial operations of the said expansion. And 17 says, procure that the necessary laws, regulations, and orders be enacted or made to give effect to this agreement and any subsequent agreements. Wait, what? So we supposed to just change real laws to make sure that everything that is in this agreement is law, is real? All ahead and good. I didn't even see this part before, but what the jail is this? What the, oh my heavenly Father? Really? And that is what our dear Tobago West MP signed to. I wonder if she actually read the document. I'm getting another note. So it says, Dr. Ved, please advise the public as to the source of the information of this failed Sanders deal. If possible, please list the link to this article so that the public could easily access this information. I don't have the link directly, but I would try to look for it. But I'm sure if you search online, Government of Trinidad and Tobago Sandals MOU, you would find it. Because what I am reading is the actual MOU that was released by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. But I would quickly jump in and say the only reason the government of Trinidad and Tobago released this document to make it a public document was because Mr. Afro Raymond took them to court. Because Mr. Afro Raymond actually did a Freedom of Information Act request, and they refused to provide the information via the Freedom of Information Act. He then took the government to court. And because they knew that they were going to lose the case, they released this document, I think it was a day or two before the court would have made that judgment. So that is what I am reading from, a document that was released from the government of Trinidad and Tobago because they were forced to release it. And this is the information. Trinidad and Tobago East and Tobago West. This is the information that the people of Tobago from the beginning, if you go back and search, again, you could go back and just search Deed and Daniel Sandals petition. Deed and Daniel was asking for the people of government of Trinidad and Tobago to just tell us kindly, what is the deal? Just tell us kindly, give us a little bit more information about what you are planning to do. That's all Deed and Daniel was asking in that petition that we all signed. And instead of just providing that information to us like they should have, because we are the people of Trinidad and Tobago and it is our money that they are taking to do it, instead of providing all of that, our dear Prime Minister, Boy, would get up on a platform and say that he does not care anything about the Tobago blue hairy crab when the environmentalists were saying A, You all need to be careful in that area because that's a Ramsar protected site, and we have our blue hairy crab, which is one of the most unique crabs in the world, and we don't want to do anything to damage their ecosystem so that they can go be extinct. And he get up on a platform and said very proudly he does not care about no blue hairy crab. And me says so, he was so. And then when we started asking about the deals, we started asking about what is the relationship, especially when they started telling us that this was foreign investment. They were telling us that this is foreign investment. You could search anyway. Foreign investment means that is the foreigner investing their money. Foreign investment does not mean that it is the government have to go and find the money to build. And then we realized that in the midst of all of that, that we still have to give them concessions. They are able to import things tax and duty free. And they have the authority to hire and fire as they wish. They have the authority to fire all of us, and then if they bring in the entire plant, if they bring in every single worker from outside, the government has to give them the work permits. Even though they said that they are going to try to purchase local goods from our farmers and our fishermen and our whatever, they are the ones with the sole discretion to say whether what our people produce is good enough. And if they decide, based on their standards, that what we produce is not good enough, then they are allowed to bring in whatever they need, and they can bring it in tax-free. They can bring it in customs-free. That is what this document said. And Tobago, that is what this document that your member for Tobago West, Ms. Shamfa Kojo, signed to. That is the document that she signed on behalf of the Tobago, or not even the Tobago House of Assembly, and that's another story by itself. Because this tourism is one of the 5th scheduled items under the Tobago House of Assembly Act. So if anything is happening as it relates to tourism in Tobago, the Tobago House of Assembly needs to be at the front and center of that. This should not have been a central government project in the first place. This should have been a Tobago House of Assembly project that if the government is saying, we want to spend $1 million, $1 billion of it, we transfer that to the Tobago House of Assembly because it is a Tobago House of Assembly project. I can bet on anything that if this was during the period where we had PNM in Tobago and another party in Trinidad, the same people and them who've been eating peanut butter and been quietly accepting all manner of disrespect would have been the loudest people screaming about how Kamala and them disrespectful and they're encroaching on the Tobago House of Assembly, blah, 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 blah. But no. All of them here sit down quiet, realizing that the only time they find out anything about this Sanders project is when people like me and Watson Duke and Farley Chavez Augustine and the environmentalists and all of those start to ask questions. And they getting the information the same time that we getting the information, when in fact they are the ones who should be our chief advocates. And then you have your 2 Tobago MPs. All your 2 Tobago MPs. And yes, thanks for identifying the fact that not only did Ms. Shamfa Kojo sign at the bottom, but she initialed every single page, because that is how you know that they don't slip in a page. She initialed every single page, indicating that she has read the page and she understands what is on the page and she agrees with on the page. Thank you for highlighting that. So it's not just the signature at the end, but it is the initials at the bottom of every page. And we have our 2 Tobago MPs, in essence, selling our soul to the devil. And instead of standing up on our behalf, they just stood quietly. And you know what? I know they were going to come and tell you silently or quietly or unofficially that they said something about it. But if they really said something about it and their pleas were not adhered to, or their cries were ignored, then because they needed to come back to the people who voted for them and say, hey, I tried speaking about this and they ignored me. I need you to come with me down so that they show that I represent you and I don't represent them. That is what they needed to do. So I know after hearing this program, they would come and try to whisper in your ear, the same way I understand some of them are trying to whisper in your ear that when they come with the deal for the airport, do not take it, because they know in their heart that it is a raw deal. So instead of coming publicly and saying that they're telling the people and them down on the West to not take the deal, imagine those who should have been speaking up for us publicly are now coming to try to whisper in your ear as if that is going to do anything. As if what they say publicly does not make more sense or does not have more weight If you are telling people do not take the deal, you should be saying it publicly. Don't be whispering it in nobody's ear. Don't be whispering it in anybody's ear. And Tobago, that is what the two MPs, Tobago East under the PNM and Tobago West under the PNM, that is what they did for the last 5 years. And they have those in Tobago House of Assembly who, instead of standing up on behalf of the people of Tobago who voted for them, up there talking about how they are so disappointed that Mr. Watson Duke and I, when we say we are proud, and I would say it publicly, I would say it privately, I would say it everywhere. I am proud that I stood up against this, because this would have been just saying we like slavery. This would have been just saying we like to be taken advantage of. Why would I sit and see Antigua and Barbuda going through hell? Why would I sit and see that Barbados is rethinking everything? Why would I sit and see all of that happening through all of the islands and still just walk in and say, well, let me jump in the fire too? No. Why would we do that? Because we stupid? No, 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 no. And that is why the PDP is here. The PDP is here because we are reading. We have competent people. We know what is right and what is wrong. And even if we don't think we just had a gut feeling that says something ain't right, let me look for more information. And when the people of Tobago started hearing about the Sandals project and was saying to the people of Tobago and saying to those in charge, give us more information, that is all we need. Give us information. They started telling us they do not care. They do not care about our hairy crab. Imagine that. The Prime Minister, who is supposed to be our Tobago boy, would get up on a platform and says he does not care about any hairy crab, any blue hairy crab anywhere, which in essence says he does not care about you and what you care about. Because when the environmentalists talk about the fact that it is one of our prized possession, and you could go up in a platform and say you don't care and have your people and them down there actually clap. That is what we need to look at, because it shows that they simply do not care about us. And yes, the person who is messaging me said we need to set the pace, not because we are small, exactly. And you see, that is the thing. They have been advantaging us for so long that they think they could keep advantaging us. And that is why when we go through this, after August 10th, when Tobago finally sends two freedom fighters, Watson Solomon Duke and Tashia Grace Burris to Trinidad, and then we start that leg. And we run that leg, because that leg is to get us to the point where we now have the Tobago House of Assembly election. And then you will be voting for people like Farley Chavez Augustine and myself to be in Tobago and to standing up, because as you know, that as they say, my mouth and hand no stopper. You can't tell me them stupidness there and expect me to just take it. You cannot tell me them stupidness there and expect me to just take it. I don't know how to do that. The Most High God gave me sense. My parents allowed me to be educated, so I know how to read and use what God gave me to make sense. Don't allow me, don't tell me that I just have to sit down and take it. No, 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 no. That is not going to happen. I will not sit back and let anybody advantage us just because we're small, just because it's 116 square miles, just because it's 60,000 of us. No, 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 no. Absolutely not. We will not allow it. We will not. Somebody's asking me for them to release the MOU for the airport, because heaven knows what that looks like. And I envision that it probably is going to look as bad as this and probably worse than this. That would be great. We would have to do that. I would love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it. That is why Tobago, this is not a time to play with your vote. If you were thinking about staying home, know that you staying home and not voting means that it is going to be easier for those two ladies who spent the last 5 years either not speaking on behalf of Tobago or saying things that does not accurately represent us, or signing away our lives, signing away our heritage, signing away our lineage, because that is what she did. Her signature is on the last page. Her initial is on every single page. That is what they did to us. Why would you want to send them again? By the time you give them another 5 years, you would get up and realize that you have nowhere to live because they have simply sold your soul to the devil. Good morning. You are on the air. Thanks for calling.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Faith.
Hi, good morning.
Are you responsible for the postponement of the press briefing by the Honorable Minister, Prime Minister this morning?
How would I be responsible for that? Oh my goodness, I didn't even know he was supposed to have a press conference this morning.
I'm locked in, continue educating the people of Tobago and make us wise in terms of what is going on.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And yes, please keep encouraging us. Please keep praying for us. Please keep, because it's going to be. Listen, we are on the home stretch. We have a little bit more than a week to go. We are on the home stretch. What we are doing here is highlighting the fact that Tobagonians are not stupid, and there are those of us who just take the time. Instead of going home and sleep comfortably at night, I just go home and pull up things and read. I just want to make sure that everything that we say is accurate, that we represent what is actually happening. That is what I want to do. Get up early in the morning, and instead of lay in bed and just be thinking, we just be digging. We have been meeting, and again, it's so wonderful. Let me read again for those who may have joined us late. One of the things that we have been doing is actually working very, very closely with some of the elders that have been a part of this movement to get Tobago to a point where we need to be. And yesterday, we had the most amazing thing happen yesterday, which is the members of the let me pull up the Guardian article again just to make sure I read it correctly. The members, they were former parliamentarians. Former parliamentarians got together yesterday to endorse the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And they include former Assemblyman Dr. Jeff Davidson, George Stanley Baird, Max James, Carlisle Dick, Cecil Carruth, Regis Carruth, and former parliamentarian, the Honorable Pamela Nicholson. Those 7 people got together yesterday, pulled a press conference together, recognizing that the Progressive Democratic Patriots is an organization that was made by young people who want to continue in the struggles that they started, that they were pushing for, that they've been fighting for. And those are 7 people, those 7 distinguished gentlemen and gentlewomen got on the air yesterday and basically said that they are endorsing the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And they are asking all of Tobago who are part of their struggle, all of Tobago who walked with them, all of Tobago who voted with them, all of Tobago who rallied down the road with them. They are asking you, Tobago, to join with them and be part and to push and to vote for the Progressive Democratic Patriots. Now, this is important because I know a lot of people honestly thought that was just the young people, them who doing their own thing and we don't know what we're doing and we're just talking off our head. But they do not know that these young people have been guided by those who came before us. Let me see again yesterday evening. I want to publicly thank Mr. Steve Jack for coming and being a part of yesterday's evening, for working with me, because Mr. Jack and I have been working together since the election. Since even right after the election, it was one of those, hey, you did what you had to do, we did what we have to do, and let us move together forward now. So Mr. Steve Jack, one of the best area representative, even though he was in opposition. A lot of the people in Belga and Goodwood would tell you that they actually got more from Mr. Steve Jack, who took it out of his own pocket to ensure that they were better than they did with having the one that is there now, or the one that were there before Mr. Jack. And I want to publicly thank him for working with me throughout these years and giving the wise counsel. And the same, all of those other people have been giving wise counsel. And we have been listening. We understand that we are working with our strength, but we need the experience of those who have come before us. We need the experience of those who understand how the thing was. We need the experience of those who started the struggle way back when, and they just took their leg off the baton, their leg of the relay, and they are now passing the baton over to the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And I want to thank them, thank each and every one of them for standing with us, for calling us every day, for sitting with us, for praying with us, for sending us. We actually now, and I'm going to say it, we actually have history. We have so many books, so many plans, so many programs that should have been in place 20 years ago. We have all of those things that they were saving, and they have handed them over to us so that we can continue the fight, so that we can continue putting Tobago under the developmental path that we should have gone. Because Tobago, if you are honest, we have been standing still for the last 20 years. We have been marking time for the last 20 years. And it is about time that we start moving in the right direction. And that is what the Progressive Democratic Patriots is here to do, to start us moving forward again. To not just be standing still, to ensuring that every single one of us lives comfortably. And I said it last night. If the Prime Minister sheep them could live in air condition, all of us should be able to live in air condition. You telling me you have a bunch of sheep in Tobago who live in better than we, and we just supposed to sit down and take that so? No. So the Progressive Democratic Patriots has been working and has been looking at different ways to ensure that if one of us gets comfortable, all of us need to get comfortable. I shouldn't be up high and mighty and leaving you struggling down below. No. That's not how it's going to be. And because this island is small, because it's only 116 square miles, because it's only 60,000 of us living on the island right now, we can implement things that would make all of us live comfortably. One of them starts with sending Tashia Grace Burris and Watson Solomon Duke to Trinidad, because as I have said before, one of the first things that we are going to negotiate for is to have more than the 4.03% of the budget. And we are pushing for 10%. We are pushing for 10% because we understand the worth of this island. We understand that a lot of the oil and gas that the government has been pumping and sending to Trinidad and using as Trinidad and Tobago money actually comes from this space known as Tobago waters. So we are just asking for our fair share. The last Dispute Resolution Commission ruling says that the government of Trinidad and Tobago is supposed to give us between 4.03 and 6.9% of the budget. And we have gotten 4.03 practically every time. They have never even gotten close to 6, far less 6.9. And because we have been getting absolute bare minimum, and when I tell all is bare minimum, I know for a fact, I used to say I feel, but I know for a fact now that what they do is calculate their budget and calculate the 4.03% of it so that they know what the maximum, so that they know what it is, and then they divide that up among the Tobago House of Assembly. And because we know that we deserve more than that, we are saying it's time that you spend some more money developing Tobago. Because most of us, when we go to Trinidad, when we hit certain parts in Trinidad, you see the big difference. You recognize that so much money has been spent in Trinidad to do these things. Tobago has been getting $200 or $300 million every year for development. That is nothing. To fix the Red House, I think what it does, $400 million to fix the Red House. Tobago, the Red House costs more than Tobago gets every year. Almost double what Tobago gets every year. That is what they took to fix the Red House. That is what Tobago gets for our development costs every year. What are we supposed to do with that? What are we supposed to do with that? When the sign, imagine the I Love Tobago sign that they are boasting so much about is $1 million. That is a whole $1 million for itself. What are we doing with $200 million? Let me read this comment. Dr. Faith, good morning. I have had it up to my eyeballs with this PNM government. Everywhere I turn, all I am hearing out of their mouth is lies, lies, and more lies. Gosh, why can't they just be truthful to the nation? Just tell us exactly what's going on, and if need be, tell us your plans to remedy the situation. I agree. Just recently, we saw that the IMF figures greatly contrasted the figures that were gleefully given to the nation by the finance minister, Mr. Colm Imbert. All these deceitful actions by this government is just too much to bear. The rest is up to the citizens to make a better choice of government or governors. For Tobago to really move forward with development and to take its rightful place alongside the rest of the world, we have to be given the chance. We have to give the chance to someone else with brighter ideas, who will place the interests of Tobago first and foremost. Thank you so much for that comment, because you are 100% correct. And I want everyone who is listening to me to remember that whenever you hear those people on the other side shout to the top of their lungs, great is the party, great is the party, great is the party, is because they are saying the party is more important than you. Great is the party, and to hell with each and every one of you. Great is the party, and the fact that you do not have a laptop and you have not been able to get your children to do their schoolwork over the last how much months during COVID, that is not important. Great is the party, and the fact that you applied to get some rental assistance and some supplementary income, and up to this point, when COVID gone and come back again, you still can't get a little bit of the $2,000 or $3,000 that you did beg them for. Great is the party, but to hell with each and every one of you. While the Progressive Democratic Patriots is coming from another angle, we are doing this because we love people. We are doing this because we are putting people before politics. We are doing this because we understand that every single human being, every single one of us who resides on this island, every single one of us who is from this island, every single one of us who has lineage on this island, every single one of us who wants to come to this beautiful island, is a human being who deserves to be treated with respect. Every single one of us, regardless of anything that you may have, anything that you may do, anything that may be a characteristic of you, you deserve to live good. You deserve to sit and dine at the table instead of watching a few people eat a food. You deserve to know that when you send your children to school that they are getting the best education possible. You deserve, when you go to work and you actually are at work, at the end of the month, you know that your salary will be able to take care of your needs, and you're not to worry when you're at one job that you have to get ready to go to the next job, and when you're at that job that you have to get ready to go to the next job, because the salaries of each of those jobs together still don't make up what you need at the end of the month. Which is why Mr. Watson Duke has been saying he's going to push for us to have a minimum wage that is a living wage, that at least everybody, doesn't matter who you are, as long as you're working within the government system, you should be able to get at least $5,000 a month, because that is what you need to be able to at least live comfortably and breathe a little bit. That is what the Progressive Democratic Patriots is here for. That is what we are doing, and that is what we are asking you to give us a vote for. So I am reading here, Dr. Faith. I heard this morning on a program, the People's Partnership needed one vote to give Tobago its lawmaking powers, and the opposition leader then and now the PM walked out with his side. Yes, actually I spoke about that yesterday or the day before, where we actually spoke about the progression of the Tobago House of Assembly Act and the Tobago Autonomy Bill, and the fact that the People's Partnership did really introduce their version of what Tobago should have gotten, and it was read once, it was read a second time, and then nothing happened because they actually refused to have the conversation. They walked out of the parliament. And then because they walked out and they refused to participate in the process, the bill had to lapse after a while. The same Prime Minister now who telling you that thing. And let me just say it again really quickly for those of us who forgot. Our Tobago boy, Mr. Orville London, in 2016, as he was stepping out of the office after being there for 16 years, very happily, gleefully handed over the Tobago Autonomy Bill to our Prime Minister, our Tobago boy Prime Minister, Mr. Keith Christopher Rowley. That happened in 2016. It took them 2 whole years to get that bill to Parliament. 2 whole years. And I hear somebody calling a TV program this morning talking about they did it as fast as they can, they did as much as they can, when in fact we know that that is not true. That is the most ridiculous thing. They could have brought it in 2016, 5 minutes after they got it from Mr. Orville London. They could have taken it to the Parliament in 2016. So don't let it come to you and tell you that it took them the 2 years to bring it to Parliament because it's a process that does take long. We have proof that they decided to bring that marijuana bill in December, and they were able to draft, they were able to redraft, they were able to debate in upper and lower house, and they were able to pass it and bring out the president to sign the document in under 30 days. So don't let it give that kind of Nancy story. Good morning. You are on the air. Thanks for calling.
Morning, Dr. Faith.
Hi, good morning.
It pains me the lies that these politicians tell about bringing a bill to Parliament, that it took so long. It took 2 years to bring a bill to Parliament, and they are saying that they brought it as fast as they can. How long did it take, Dr. Rowley, to bring a bill to Parliament to increase the duties on persons importing goods from on the internet? How long did it take him to bring that bill to Parliament and pass it? To increase taxes on poor people who were buying things online, some of them who were supplementing their salaries, selling over these things to their families and their friends, in order to protect the people who own these stores in Port of Spain, so that they could continue to fleece us by high prices of clothing and high prices of groceries. How long did it take Mr. Rowley to bring that bill to Parliament? To destroy single mothers who have little children to feed, who are buying little jerseys and little socks and little jockey shorts and selling to their friends and families. It didn't take very long to bring that bill to Parliament.
Exactly. So they cannot come now and tell us. They cannot come now and tell us that it's taking long, and that is why it can happen. And thank you again to my guardian angel. Who are you? Who is sending me all of this information? There was an article written in 2013. It says no PNM support for Tobago bill, and there's a picture of a meeting in Mason Hall where the candidate for Providence Mason Hall, Sheldon Collingham, was sitting left of Dr. Keith Rowley, and Mr. Orville London was actually in the meeting, and it was done by Mark Fraser. The article was done by Mark Fraser, and it actually said that Dr. Rowley said, well, I am putting all of you on notice. I am putting the country on notice. There will be no cooperation with the government on this matter, none whatsoever, says Dr. Rowley, because they were talking about having that bill. They were talking about bringing the bill that the People's Partnership brought, and Dr. Rowley said very clearly that he was not going to cooperate with the people of Tobago. He was not going to cooperate with the people of Tobago to do any of that. He was not going to cooperate with the people of Tobago to do that, and that was in 2013. So now they are coming and tell us, that it is the opposition now who did not vote for it, when in fact we know that that is what he said with the situation. I'm getting another message. It says, Dr. Faith, I heard this morning on a program the People's Partnership needed one vote. So yes, that is what was happening. I love you because I'm reading only over here in the studio, and we are reading the WhatsApp messages. Mega Vibes on another computer somewhere outside canceling my thing, so I had to lock him out and bring back my messages. And you could go ahead, Mega. Go ahead. Oh my goodness. That is what technology does, because I am in one part of the studio looking at a couple computer screens, and he's doing his work from another part of the studio, taking control of the screen. But hey, Tobago, as we wrap up, I want to remind you that this evening we will be going to the northern end of the island. We're going down to the area that Farley Chavez Augustine is now the area representative for. We are leaving the Dwight York Stadium at 4 p.m. sharp, leaving the Dwight York Stadium at 4 p.m. sharp, and heading to the north side where we'll be hitting Castara, Palatavere, Bloody Bay, and Lanswame, and then we will be ending up in Castara to have our final meeting for the evening in Castara. Okay, we have the final meeting for the evening in Castara this evening. So even if you can't make the whole trip, if you are late and you're leaving town late, you could end up in Castara this evening. By about 7:30 we should be back in Castara, for the actual meeting that we want to have. Again, we are asking each and every one of you, Tobago East and Tobago West, that the Progressive Democratic Patriots is here because we are putting people before politics. We are here because we recognize that Tobago has been at a standstill and that we need to move in the right direction. We are here because we want to send 2 freedom fighters to the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago to finally stand up and speak on behalf of the people of Tobago without fear or favor. And if you know Tashia Grace Boris, and if you know Watson Solomon Duke, you know that they do not care about who feelings that they hurt down there, as long as they are speaking on behalf of the people of Tobago. That's why we are asking you for your support. We are asking you for you to vote for the Progressive Democratic Patriots. Vote for the Bamboo Bolife. Vote for the names Tashia Grace Boris and Watson Solomon Duke in Tobago East and Tobago West, or Tobago West and Tobago East respectively, because we are the party. We are the ones, as you've seen, the elders who've been around, Miss Pam Nicholson, Dr. Jeff Davidson, Stanley Beard, the entire group of them, the Carut, Regis Carut and Cecil Carut and all of them, Max James, and they actually stood up yesterday and said that they are throwing their support behind the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And we need each and every one of you on election day to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to remind you to please, on August 10th, get up early, very, very early. Pray, meditate, do whatever you do to get your mind straight. Put on some decent clothes. You can't wear the PDP jersey, so don't put that on. Put on something that has no print on it. Get a plain white jersey or something and go down. I understand that you may need to wear a mask to go and vote. So have your mask or have something to cover your face just in case. That is a rule. I have to confirm that. Go on election day very, very early to try to be a consecutive voter number 1, consecutive voter number 2. It should have about 20 or less stand up fighting for the first vote. And ensure that you put your X next to the Bamboo Bolife. Ensure that you put your X next to the symbol that has PDP under it. Ensure that you put your X next to Watson Solomon Duke, Tashia Grace Boris, because these are the people who are putting people before politics. These are the freedom fighters that we are sending all the way to Trinidad to speak on your behalf. These are the people who we know that will speak for Tobago and will not just speak for themselves. These are the people who we know will absolutely fight for you, because that is who they are, that's what they've been doing, and that is what Tobago needs right now. Today, we are going to be on the northern side of the island. We are heading to Castara, Palatavere, Bloody Bee, and Lansome. We are finishing having our last meeting in Castara. This evening. And we are asking you, I read all of them already. We are asking you to help us. We are asking, I have no idea what you're telling me, Omega, just stay done. We are asking you to be a part of this and to support us and to come out. So again, see you guys tomorrow morning, God's willing, at 10 a.m. See you tomorrow, and we will be here continuing to put people first, put people before politics. Thank you.
PDP, we voting for PDP. Black and we pro. PDP, we voting for PDP. This is a black hole. PDP, we voting for PDP. PDP, black and pro. No weapon form against you. So higher than an eagle. 10,000 for